But one farmer says, seems to me there was a tea party in Boston that was illegal too.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold.
We shall seek to establish and maintain a dollar which will not change its purchasing and debt-paying power during the succeeding generation.
As anguished shrieks rose up from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Government credit and government currency are really one and the same thing. A reserve of gold and a small reserve of silver.
So, and I said, well, what if it does happen? And he says, well, price will solve everything. I said, thanks, give me the gold.
Why do central banks hold it? Well, it's a form of reserves. So why don't they hold diamonds? Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Well, some people still think it's money.
Hey, welcome back to the Junius Maltby channel. Thank you for joining me for another extemporaneous, unscripted ramblings of a madman. The only notes I have here are those that I've compiled in going through some of Dave Ramsey's videos, and I'm forced to do some simple math, calculating percentage rates, gains, growth over time, and comparing some of the times where he told various individuals to dump their metals positions or not buy metals and put them into other asset classes and such, and seeing how often he's missed the mark, sometimes by as much as over 5,000%, and millions of dollars in potential gains or losses unrealized by those he's, I guess you could say, misguided when it came to his personal opinion and his ideological viewpoint, as wrong as it is, in regards to precious metals. We did this video the other day. It was quite popular. I was surprised. A lot of you really enjoyed it. It got a lot of good feedback. It was titled Dave Ramsey 100% Wrong on Gold. If you haven't seen it, it's a long hour, but it's fun. We cover a lot of different material, and the feedback I've gotten from some of you is that you learned quite a bit about gold just by watching that one video. So I'm glad it did that. I'm glad it got the positive feedback that it did. It wasn't, I didn't think that would occur. I didn't know it would be as popular with all of you. And you know, I've wanted to do Dave Ramsey videos in the past. Sometimes it was so annoying, and I didn't really feel like addressing it. It was almost like throwing pearls before swine. It just wasn't a topic I felt like I needed to cover. I knew that many of you were in tune and well-versed enough to understand that Dave Ramsey is entirely wrong in his viewpoints when it comes to precious metals. Now, I do have some things in common with Mr. Ramsey. Avoiding debt, getting out of debt, being debt-free. And that, to me, is pretty obvious. I think most people should realize that. That's a very clear starting point, and it's a good idea. That's about it. From there, he and I think, diverge onto different paths in our views when it comes to history, economics, monetary policy, the role of gold, what's taken place prior to the breakdown of Bretton Woods in '71, and what's taken place since then. But today's video comes because I got a comment that one of you wanted to see a video on his views with silver. Now that's difficult because some of his videos with silver are tied into gold and silver videos, and where he addresses both kind of simultaneously, and I don't think that that's very fair or accurate for gold because they're really different. They perform, behave differently, and they both have different histories when it comes to their role as money or their non-role as money. And so today we're just going to look at one particular recommendation he gave to somebody that was to sell their position in silver that they had. And I'll let you view that video real quick, just the clip of the question. We'll break it down, and then we'll go into some of his, I guess you could say, off-color comments and his comparisons with silver to other items. And we'll break that down as well, more for comic relief. But when you look at the price of silver, today we're sitting at about $24.15, I believe. It's up 1.79% today, up 42 cents. You look at the last 6 months, it's up $8.82, up 59.44%. I'm going to really emphasize the 6 months because this video was put out about the time of May, and I'm not certain how quickly his videos get up from the time they were recorded. I'm guessing a couple of days. Maybe there shouldn't be too significant of a delay there. So we'll base it on about a 6-month window, give or take here a couple of days. So really pay attention. It's up about 59% since he made the video. For the year, it's up about 30%. Over the last 5 years, up about 55%. Over the last 20 years, silver's up around 402%, up around $18.94. Now, many of you know I've sometimes been quite harsh on silver. I definitely lean more towards gold as far as when it comes to the decision in which metal I trust and would like to purchase. This chart here is silver price performance percent annual change. And the reason I'm going to show this is you really, again, want to pay attention to some of the things Dave says and just his negative sentiment that he has towards precious metals in general, but also in this video towards silver and in the advice that he gives this woman. You can see here that on average, the average gain for silver is about 12.3%. So it actually beats gold there when you look at the average. Now that's just the average. Gold's averaging about 11 right now, about 10.9% to 11%, give or take, depending on the day. Silver's averaging around 12.3% per year, and this is again going back about 15 years, so from 2005 to 2020. Some big strong years there. You got some that 33% gains, 46% gains. 2010, look at that, 83%. That's back when we saw that huge spike. And I'm going to use that as an example of people that like to cherry pick the peaks. You'll see a lot of times when you have critics criticizing gold or silver and really attacking it, they always tend to look at the all-time highs and say, well, if you bought it at that date, you're down this much or you're only up this much. You could say that really for any stock or any index, if you're just buying the peaks. That's just not the way it is. Some people invest over time. Some people buy based on various chart performance sciences, and they look at charts and they'll buy troughs or bottoms, and they time their purchases with precious metals. I don't know very many people who just jump in, FOMO out, and buy on these dramatic peaks like at the high of 2010 when it was up 83% that year. That's not very common, and it's unfair to judge silver based on just those particular snapshots in time. You look at some of the other years, again, up 8%, 17%, 15, 32, and it's up almost 33%, up 32.7% this year. So without further ado, let's look at the snapshots in time and his recommendations of what he told this woman to do with about a $10,000, I believe, it's about a $14,000 valuation on her silver at current time when the video was done. She says 12 to 14,000. I'm going to guess this at about 1,000 ounces. It just makes easier math for our calculations in discussing this particular situation. And it makes sense with the math that she's disclosing that they're sitting on roughly 1,000 ounces of silver.
So my question for you is, we made what we know now to be a bad investment about 10 years ago on silver coins. We thought it was a good idea at the time. But the investment we made in those is worth about half of the money that we put into it at this time. But we're not sure it's going to go back up. So my question is, should we go ahead and sell it now and use that to pay towards paying our debt, or wait and see if the value might go back up? I know sometimes historically when the economy is down, usually the
precious metals go up. Yeah. You're right. The silver and gold goes up. When people are afraid, silver and gold goes up generally. That's true. Now, what's this investment worth today?
Between 12 and 14,000.
Okay. All right. If you had $14,000 in cash sitting in the middle of your kitchen table, would you buy silver coins with it today?
No.
Then you wouldn't keep it in silver coins for the exact same reason.
Okay.
Is that logical?
Okay.
She disclosed that she is in debt and they want to use the money to pay off debt. Now, that's never really a horrible idea, depending on what the debt is, what the interest rate is. Now, if it was a 0% rate on a card or something and you don't have to pay interest on that debt, you might make better gains in holding your metal over that time period and just making the payments on the debt as you go. But it's always a good idea to get rid of the debt if you can. Now, I've been leaving some comments in fun on some of Mr. Ramsey's videos, and I addressed this particular conversation that he had with her, and it's difficult to really get all the numbers because we don't know the exact amount of silver that she purchased, and we don't know exactly when, for what price, and we still don't know the exact date the video was made. We can guess with some of the statements that were made in ballpark. It was about 10 years ago. She thinks she's down about half. She thinks it's worth around 12 or 14,000 today. So I left a comment that said, so he's advising her to sell at a 50% loss. An asset that has had value and purchasing power and served as money for 7,000 years. We're on the brink of quantitative easing in perpetuity, zero interest rate policies, even negative interest rate policies. The Fed is normalizing higher inflation. We've heard that from them repeatedly. And I'm just paraphrasing a comment that I left there. I'm guessing that this woman had around 1,000 ounces based on the April-May quote of approximately $14 per ounce. It actually might be as high as $17 an ounce. We'll go back. I'll show you some charts. Today, the price of silver is $24.16. So since the video was made in May, about 5 months ago, her silver has increased in value roughly $10,000. Silver's up about 59.44% in the last 6 months. Once again, Dave seems to be wrong in himself misdirecting somebody. And he goes on in the video, and we'll show you that. He talks about oil. Well, oil is still down significantly. Oil stocks, oil ETFs, while silver is up 60%. Now, roughly about the time this video was made, this is a snapshot of the price of silver at about $15.86 per ounce. You can see it there on the lower left side of the screen. Now, on the right side of the screen, where the new box is, you can see the price quoted at $24.07. It's higher than that. It's about $24.16, $24.15 now. But you can see the tremendous gains that take place. Look again on the lower left side. That's May. At the time the video was made, at the time this phone call took place, really was a very low time for silver. And it's done nothing but rise since then. It has retreated a little bit from its all-time highs this year, or from its yearly highs, just under $30 an ounce there. It broke past $28 and $29 an ounce. And it should see those again, based on all the economic signs that we're seeing out there and that we discuss frequently on this channel. But currently, she's still, if she had held her silver, would be up over $10,000 from her position in just that short period of time, and been able to, if she needed to, recoup those costs, lessen the amount that she would have lost, and be able to service more of the debt that she's trying to pay off. So selling back in May was really not the best decision this woman could have made. Again, and anytime anyone calls Dave with precious metals advice, or for precious metals advice, I should say, he advises them, A, not to purchase metals at all, no matter what time it is, and he always tells them to dump it, sell it if they have it. And I'll show you some other videos. We'll probably be doing more of these because there's a lot of material to work through when it comes to covering his often and frequent misstatements regarding precious metals. Now, I don't know how frequently this woman looks at the price of silver or is able to calculate how much hers was worth, if she knows the exact amount of ounces. Again, the math, some of the things that are said in the video, it's difficult to determine really what we're working with here. But again, based on 10 years ago and 10 years from when the video was made, it lands sometime around that May of 2010 mark. And in that time period, silver fluctuated in its values around $17 to $18 per ounce, as you can see in this chart here. Now, I'm sure she felt like she was an economic genius since she bought in May of 2010, and they saw those significant gains that occurred shortly after that. Essentially, they would have been up tremendously if they had bought in that $17 to $18 range, and then they were able to see silver rise above $40, $45 an ounce back in 2011. They obviously held it, and that's That's their fault. They could have liquidated their position, realized some significant gains in silver, as others did, as I myself dumped my positions in silver, much of them at that time period, playing the gold-silver ratio flip and locking up that silver profit in gold itself. Now, since then, silver did retreat. We saw it hit some lows, some troughs, and from about 2014 all the way to about 2018 and coming into 2019, it wasn't doing a whole lot. It was just stabilized there at almost the values that she purchased it at. Now, if you look at this chart, this is when Dave told her to sell her position there on the lower left side again. And since then, 6 months ago, silver has gone up tremendously, and we're looking at likely some further gains based on the economic indicators that exist out there, the amount of inflation, the debt to GDP, quantitative easing, the zero interest rate policies, negative interest rate policies, all of those things into consideration. Now, I wouldn't have purchased silver the way she did, but that's hindsight, 2020. She's not me, I'm not her. And I'm not a big, hey, if I have $10 or $15 or $20,000, let's go buy silver type of guy. You know, she would have been a lot better off had she purchased gold. That's just the way that is. There's nothing we can really do about that. This phone call is regarding silver. But we're going to continue on.
Yes.
See, what that does is that forces you, when I give you that mental picture of the cash in the middle of your kitchen table, it forces you to push away all of the, but silver coins could be going back up. Because all of that is called a sunk cost analysis. And you never make decisions on an investment or any item for that matter based on what you paid for it. You make your decisions based on what the future is. Okay. And so you could even ask yourself, if you have a boat sitting in the driveway that's worth $14,000, you could ask yourself, if I had $14,000 piled in the middle of my kitchen table, would I buy a boat today? And if the answer is no, then it's time to sell the boat.
Now, the two best days in a boat owner's life is the day they buy it and the day they sell it. The key is just have friends with boats and go right on theirs. The maintenance, all the costs, the storage, everything that goes into it, the depreciating nature of them entirely, they're just not worth it. That's my personal opinion. But it really is not fair to compare a boat to silver, Dave. Silver's been money again for 7,000 to 10,000 years. Holds value against inflation quite often, and it does very well as a wealth preservation asset over time. Not as good as gold, in my opinion, but it does do its fair share in protecting people's wealth. And I know quite a few wealthy people who have taken very large positions in silver. I can tell you firsthand accounts of several individuals that are in the millionaire class that own very large positions of silver. Bars, coins, they store it, and they don't buy it and hold it for brief windows in time. These are people, I know two people in particular. I'm not going to mention who they are or where I know them from. They're older, generations even before mine, that have been sitting on very large stashes of silver for over 30 or 40 years. These are people that bought silver back when it was probably between $1 and $3 an ounce tops. And they took large positions. And you're talking a multitude of thousands of ounces, and they sit on it. To this day, they've never sold a single ounce. That's just part of their family's dynastic wealth preservation. Now, there's no reason to compare that silver to a boat. If you had bought a boat in 1970, it would look like this and probably be worth nothing but scrap. And you'd have to either pay someone to haul it off, or you yourself would have to pay to drop it off at a landfill. They depreciate, they're worth less the day you buy them, and they're worth less every single day that you use them. They're not worth anything, in my opinion. So there you go. The boat comparison, Dave, it doesn't work, and it's quite illogical. It's not the reason someone calls is to have your advice on, comparing asset classes to recreational equipment.
Too. It's the same thing with a gambler sitting at the table and gets a bad hand.
Yes.
They're playing poker and they get a bad hand and they go, well, I can't get up until I at least make my money back.
That's right.
And you're on a cold streak, you're going down.
Comparing silver to playing poker or gambling and having to just cut your losses and not gamble any further. That's, again, a very interesting comparison, similar to his comparison of a boat. And it's actually entertaining to see someone who so much is an apologist for Wall Street calling silver or relating silver to gambling or casino-like behavior, when we all know that Wall Street itself is essentially a betting game. It is a rigged casino. Insider trading, backdoor deals, all the covert going-ons that take place in Wall Street, it's oftentimes heads they win and tails you lose, no matter which way you flip it. These guys tend to make off with everyone else's money. And if they lose big enough, you, the taxpayer, gets to bail them out and put more money into the pockets of the biggest investors that seem to never lose at all. And when they bail them out, what do? They print more dollars out of thin air, destroying, eroding, debasing, and devaluing the currency that you have to live on, purchasing goods and services on, the currency that you're paid with, the currency that your grandmother, your aunts, your uncles, and all of you save in. It's that destruction, that inflation tax, that is the reason people often turn towards precious metals, to hide their wealth and protect it from that thieving hand we discuss so often. Because, again, gold isn't really an investment, and silver, not really an investment. And that's a difficult word to use, investment. Pretty broad term. These are real money. It's a place people park their wealth to preserve it over the course of time. But to compare them to something in Wall Street is absolutely inaccurate and unfair. And if anything, all of the little stocks and things that Dave likes to dabble and play with, those are Wall Street. Those are a casino.
Good question in your situation, Kelly. Really good question. But I'd cash them out tomorrow, today, either one.
Yeah, get it done.
And let's just move on with our life and go chalk that one up.
That's what you said, the infamous phrase, stupid tax. That's the category you just have to put it in. And you go,
whatever
I'm
you
moving
lost,
on.
yeah.
I'm moving on.
Well, there you go. It's a stupid tax. Buying silver is a stupid tax. You heard it right there. Dave even agreed. It yields, on average, for the last 15 years, 12.3% per year. It's been growing for decades. Remember, in 1964, silver was about $1 an ounce. Today it's $24.15 an ounce. We haven't even gotten into the amount of manipulation that takes place by the casino boys in Wall Street. J.P. Morgan getting caught spoofing and manipulating the price of silver. We know that silver is heavily manipulated by some of these big banks. They're losing their grip and their stranglehold as they get caught. And hopefully, eventually, they collapse, they get dismantled, and people, populations, and those that are honest can come up with a means of true price discovery. And I think that is taking place. And I actually believe that blockchain technology, if this does come about, and we see tokenized metals with private vaults that allow for delivery, as we've been discussing lately and as we're seeing, I believe that some significant changes are going to take place in the price discovery mechanisms for precious metals and how they are moved about the planet in commerce, in trade, and acting, again, in some fashion as money. But to me, the level of disrespect shown towards something that dates back to the beginning of time as holding value in every major empire and all throughout human history, and is clearly written in the United States Constitution as being money. It's somewhat nauseating to see the type of behavior demonstrated on camera that Mr. Ramsey likes to do so often when it comes to discussing precious metals and attempting to steer people away from them, even though nearly every single time, as a matter of fact, I haven't found a video where he's hit a home run yet with precious metals. He's been wrong every time. This particular case, as we've shown you, the charts, they don't lie. He told this person to sell when silver was around $15 an ounce. It's $24.15 now. It was even higher earlier this year, and it's likely going to see $30, $35, $40 an ounce going forward. Very likely. And the charts do not behave in the way that he likes to pretend that they do. I'm not the biggest silver fan, but I will sit here and I will go to bat for silver in this particular case, for sure. He was wrong, absolutely wrong in his prediction here and in his call here.
And so these oil stocks, any company associated with oil, Exxon or whatever like that, are artificially down. And, I might hold those for 4 months and let's see if this doesn't come on back.
That's right.
But I'm not going to play the market to try to recoup.
No, that's good. That's a good lesson.
So he says he would hold oil stocks, in comparing it to silver, at the same time frame, waiting for them to come back, because they should come back. They're artificially low because people aren't driving. You just heard it. You heard him say that. Well, take a look. This is silver. That same time period, up and strong. Remember, we just discussed it gained over $10 an ounce approximately since he told that woman to sell. Now, this is oil. This is Exxon, which he just mentioned. Back in May, this Exxon stock that Dave said he would hold on to if he was in a similar position, it was around $44, $45, even $55 per share for Exxon. Today, it's $33 per share. It's been on a downward decline ever since he told us in this video that he made back in May he would hold on to it, waiting for it to come back. How long are you going to wait, Dave? And since then, silver has grown significantly more in value in comparison to Exxon. And we just looked at the silver chart, 6 months chart. This is a 6-month chart for Exxon. And yet Dave said he would hold on to Exxon if he was in a similar position with losses down, waiting for it to come back. Now I wonder why you wouldn't wait for silver to come back. Why you wouldn't calculate and include certain economic factors, certain behaviors, certain things that are taking place by the government, by world governments, global economies, and central banks. All of that activity, take that into consideration when making a decision on whether or not you would hold silver or sell silver position. It just goes to show you, again, he is absolutely biased and slanted. Now, I have no problem buying oil stocks. I myself, in the past, have messed around with them. But I'm just showing you how biased and how unintelligible Dave Ramsey is in the statements that he makes. And the other thing is his ego, his arrogance. To be as outspoken and arrogant, but at the same time so wrong and misinformed and ignorant on a topic, it's just a complete turnoff, I guess, for most people. And I know a lot of you notice it. You did mention it, and I saw some of the comments. Yeah, it's laughable. It truly is laughable. But there you go. There's the Exxon stock that Dave would have kept. And again, imagine if you bought that at $55 a share, and it's sitting there at $33 today. No sign of really recovering or improving from that point, while silver has tremendous upside potential. Well, thanks for tuning in to another Junius Maltby broadcast. Appreciate all of you who like and share and subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to our backup channel, Mrs. Maltby's channel. I'll put that link down below. And don't forget to leave a comment, hit that thumbs up, and share the videos. Thank you all who support this channel, contribute, and participate in the Junius Maltby channel all the time. Have a good night.